Ois hey, ois ches. So the Rebbe explained the meaning of the verse. The Targum translates when Yaakov says, "Ein ze ki im beis elikim leis dein asar hedjit." This is not an ordinary asar place. It's not a regular mokim. And the Rebbe explained that something that comes from Shem Havaya, the Shem Havaya, which is Nizgala in the Mokim Hamikdash, in the Shem Elikim, the uh, place itself does not block from the Shem Havaya. So therefore, it is not an Asar Hedyet. The Gilui of the Shem Havaya is in the Asar, and therefore it's not Asar Hedyet because of the Gilui of the Shem Havaya. The Rebbe is going to explain even further that the whole thing we're trying to explain that even mitzad the Shem Havaya, that even though the Shem Havaya comes down into the Shem Elikim, which means the Lemailam and Amokim in the Mokim of Elikim, and yet from the perspective of the Shem Havaya, the Mokim Atzmoi is not Mailim over there, mitzad the Mokim itself. And the Rebbe will explain now further this idea. Based on Bechlal, the idea of the Yichud Havaya Velikim, how the Shem Havaya is the main force that the Mokim itself becomes in a level of its Leisasar Mokim Hedju, that it's the Shem Havaya. Look inside. To explain this idea, the lays dein asad hedjit by Yosef. This is not the ordinary place to understand this deeper. Yuvon Bahagdi will understand this by introducing Shebe'inyan Hayichud Havaya Velikim. This union of combining Havaya and Elikim in Olam, in Elikim to have Havaya to connect and unite Havaya and Elikim, that Havaya Velikim Kulachad, that it's one. Ishnei Bi'urim Bichlolus, generally speaking, explains it in two ways. First of all, how could the Shem Havaya function in the Shem Elikim? Shegam Shem Elikim Tzimtzum Inyonehu Legalis, that also the Shem Elikim, which function is to restrict, but really its idea is to reveal, which means שבכדי שהגילוי דשם Havaya יומשך למטה, in order of the revelation of the Shem Havaya should extend below, hu al yidei hatzimtzum v'hahelem the Shem Elikim, that's through the restriction and the block of the Shem Elikim. So it turns out that also the Shem Elikim is connected, is miyuchad with the Shem Havaya, because the tzimtzum is in order to be megale. So that means that it's the yichud Havaya Elikim, even though Elikim is tzimtzum, but it's also megale. It's made to be megale lemata. And there's another explanation that the Shnei Hashemes Havaya Velikim, that both of these names Havaya Velikim Heim Shmoisuv Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shalomaylam Bishneim, they are essentially names of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, which is higher than the both of them. The Shem Havaya is the Bligvul, Koyach HaBligvul. Shem Elikim is Koyach HaGvul, to the Inyan from Tzimtzum. But the names of Havaya Likim, be'essence, are not defined by the Gvul and Bligvul. It is only the Eibishter Shekach Olo B'Ritzoyno Yisborach Sha'gilu Shelo Yihiyeh B'Shnei Hakavim, the Bligvul Ugvul, Gilu V'Tzimtzum, that this is what entered his blessed will. The Eibishter desired that his revelation should be in these two lines of Bligvul and Gvul, which is Gilu V'Tzimtzum. But in essence, there's no contradiction. The essence, it's higher. It's a Ratzon Hashem expresses in these two expressions, in Gvul and Bligvul, but Be'etzem, they can be misyached because it comes, it's a Ratzon Hashem. So based on this, we can add explanation. The fact that above the tzimtzum itself, meaning legabe the above, not legabe the below, means the makablim, the nishavim, but lemaila also the tzimtzum ein mailim legabe hisof, that it does not obscure, it doesn't block relative to the ein sof. In addition to the explanation of the drushim of the Maimorim that we explained earlier, that the Shem Havaya the Talmud, that the Rabbs is not really a mitzamtzum legabi the moker. So on the top of that, there's also additional explanation. The kiv on shagam hat simtzum, the Shem Elikim hu chad im Havaya, since also the simtzum of Shem Elikim is really one with Havaya, because there's really no difference between them. They're both Gilui, and they both represent a higher level, which is higher than both of them. Ein shayich sheyastir legabe. So then it's not fitting that it should block because it's really one and the same. They're together. So you can't have Elikim doesn't really block on the Shem Havai. So based on this, we can explain even deeper. Haloshan lays dain asar hedjit. What does it mean? It's not asar hedjit. Shemokim hamigdosh einay asar hedjit. The space of the migdosh is not the common al derech zeh mokim ha'orin einay min amida. Similar, same thing. The mokim ha'orin is not measured. The place shahagilui, the lemailo mehamokim sheheir bahamokim, the gilui of higher than mokim, the gilui of Shem Havaya, which shine the mokim hoyu mitzad hamokim atzmei. That was because the mokim itself. Why? Because we just explained that milachatchila there isn't separate Shem Havaya and the Shem Elikim, and therefore the Shem Halikim cannot mastir, cannot block on the Shem Havaya, and that was the gilui in the Mokim Hamigdosh, that the Mokim itself was Einay Min Hamida because of the Gilui of the Shem Havaya that came down in the Mokim Hamigdosh. So it is not a Asar ordinary, Asar Hedyot. It's not as a Hedyot. It's all because of the Shem Havaya. But how could it be that the Shem Havaya in Mokim makes it not Mokim? So he gives all these explanations. It doesn't block on the Shem Havaya, but he adds now in this Ois and Ois Ches that Be'etzem the Shem Havaya and the Shem Elkim aren't different, either because they're are both from a higher source, just Eivishter's expression that comes out this way, or the idea that Elikim is also legal, so they're both legal, but they can't block on one another. So therefore, when there is his galus, the Shem Havai in the Mokim, When there was the Gilu of the Shem Havaya, that creates that the Mokum itself is not Mugbo. Oisas. So now the Rebbe is going to say that this level of Leis Asar Hedyet is really in the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi. Tesh, Shleimar, Shegilu Inyan Zeh. The Leis Dein Asar Hedyet, this revelation that this is not Kim Beis Elikim Ein Zeh, Kim Beis Elikim, this is Ahasar, not Asar Hedyet. Yihiyeh Kavod HaBayis, this will be in the third Beis HaMikdash. That's when we will have that full revelation of the Leis Den Asar Hedjit, that you have the Gilu of the Shem Havaya. But Inyan Hu, the idea is the Bayis, Rishon V'Sheni, Heim Bedalud Oishis the Shem Havaya, Shadoim Zim Alas Sfiris. The first and the second Beis HaMikdash in the four letters of Yud Kei Vav Kei, in the four letters of the Shem Havaya, and these four letters include Remzim Alesa Sfiris, Yud is Chochma, Kei is Bina, Vav is the Midas, and Hey is Malchus. So we're saying in the Beis Hamikdash, Bayis Rishon Hu Hey Ilah, the first Beis Hamikdash is the upper Hey, the Yud Kei, the first Hey. There's two Heys in Yud Kei Vav Kei. The Hey Ilah, that's Bina. Shal Yodahu Gilu Hayud Chochma. Through Bina comes the revelation of the Yud, which is Chochma. So that's the Heilah in Yud Kei Boden. Ubayis Sheni who Keitato. The second Beis HaMikdash is the lower level of Hey, which is Malchus. Shal Yodo who Gilu Havav Zo, through it is the Gilu Havav, which is the Zo. So that's the first and the second Beis HaMikdash, the ICS of Yud Kei and Vav Kei. Bayis Lishi Hu Keser. But the third Beis HaMikdash is the level of Keser, the level of Kimuva Le'il Siv Gimel, as brought before in Siv Gimel, the Yihiyeh Aryeh, when we say in the Medrash, Yihiyeh Aryeh, Bichdei, that the Aryeh should come, they destroyed it, so in order to come, Hu Gilui HaKeser Shalamaylam Ishtalshlus, that's the revelation of Keser, which is higher than Ishtalshlus. So that's going to be by the third Beis HaMikdash. And the first and the second Beis HaMikdash is the Ishtalshlus, Yud Kei and Vav Kei. Yud Kei by the first one and Vav Kei by the second one. Here, by the Shlishi, will be the level of Keser. V'hinei, Be'eser Sfiris, when we're talking the 10 Sfiris in Ishtalshlus, so over there, Hagilui v'ha'elem shabahem, the revelation and the obscurity in them, which is the Oiros v'kelim. Oiros is the Oir and the Gilui is the Helem. Hem shnei inyonim, the two separate inyonim. So, zeh, bezeh, sheshnei ha'inyonim, the Gilui v'helem, hem shmoisuv shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, shalom a'ilum b'shnehem. And the fact that the two aspects, the two ideas of Gilu and Helem are names of Hashem, which is higher than the Gilu Helem, which means it's higher than Ishtalsh, is higher than the Spheres, who alidei Gilui Hakeser Shalamaylam Ishtalshlus. That comes through the revelation when Keser is revealed, which is higher than Ishtalshlus, then they become not separate anymore. The Kamoy She'inyan his Chalkus, Hais Chalkus, this Spheres, Chochm bin V'chulu, who be'iker b'Spheres Hagaluyas Da'atzilus, just like the main area of the separation of Sfiras Chochmah Bina is mainly in the revealed Sfiras Vatzilus. In Hishtalshlus, over there is all the distinctions and the separations because it's revealed. Mashenkein Eser Sfiras Hagnuzis Keser, as opposed to the 10 hidden Sfiras on Keser, Hem Klulim Ke'echad. Over there, they're like one. There's not 10, it's not separate. Similarly, it's also in this separation of the lights in the kelim, gilu v'hel. Shebe'eser sfiris hagnuzas heim ha'eres ha'kelim b'savus. When we're talking about in the level of the eser sfiris hagnuzas, the eres and the kelim aren't separate, they're bisachdus, because when there's gilu hakeser, it's like by the eser sfiris hagnuzas, it's not bischalkus. So since it's the idea, you need hamshachas hakeser in order to make really the union between the Oidus Kelim, the Shem Havai, and the Shem Elikim, and that's going to happen by the Beis HaMikdash Shlishi when there's going to be Begilui Keser. So in the lays Dain Asar Hedjet, that this is not a place of or common, that the place is not Hedjet. Shagam Hamokim Atzma Yihiyeh K'may Keli Lim Lagilu de Lamailo Mahamokim, so that the space itself should become like a vessel to the revelation which is higher than space. So in space to get higher than space, in order to make that vessel, so openly, this will be in the third Beis HaMikdash. Ki oz yumshach begilui gam b'Hashemis habaye v'lekim kimoi shem b'shtalshlus, because then in the Bayis Shlishi it will be open, the high level of Keser, openly also in the Shemus Habaye Lekim as they are in Ishtalshlus. Within Ishtalshlus you'll feel the higher than Ishtalshlus. Ba'al Yidei Zeh, and since that will be felt in the Ishtalshlus, Kam Bishnei Ha'inyonim, both areas, the Lemailo Mimokim, the Lemailo Mimokim, Umokim, these two ideas, to be above space and in space, also in this physical world, there will be space and non-space. Because they're both Havaya and Elikim, the Gilu and Helam, are names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which are higher than the Gilu and the Helam. And it's Kulachad. And since that's going to be revealed, so the Olam itself is not going to be blocking. It's going to be Begilui within the Olam itself. We'll understand what it's explained in many places, as brought down earlier in Sif Aleph. The Mailas Beis Hashlishi Hu Sheyeh Kiyum B'Kiyum Nitzchi. That the advantage of the Third Beis HaMikdash is going to be an eternal, it's going to last forever. The L'cheire B'tzim Kivon She'inyan HaNitzchiyis Hoya Efsher Liyis Kam B'Bayis HaRishon. Since the idea of Nitzchiyis, that was possible to be also in the first Beis HaMikdash, Kemuva Lil Sif Gimel, as we said before, Sif Gimel, that it could be lasting, also the first Beis HaMikdash. So, so how do we say that this is the advantage of the third Beis HaMikdash when also the first one could have had that Maila? So we can say the explanation is that this eternity that was able to take place be the first Beis HaMikdash will be Iker Mitzad Hagilui, the Lamailo Mehazman. That is basically from the perspective there would be a revelation higher than time, so it can be forever. V'achidush b'nitzchias shetiyeh b'bayis hashlishi. And the novelty in the eternity that's going to be in the third Beis HaMikdash, ushekam hazman yiyeh kli lezeh, that also time will be a vessel to it, to that eternity of that comes through the Gilui, so the Zman itself becomes eternal, not through something else. Uh, it's not mitzad agilu the lamailo that you get the nitzchias in the bayis shlishi, but you get it mitzad olam itself, mitzad the Zman itself. V'zeu shemailus bayis hashlishu sheyeh kim bekim nitzchi. This is the advantage of the third Beis HaMikdash, that it's going to be existing eternally. Ka'amitis inyan habli gvul nitzchisu, because the true concept of limitless, without any boundaries, which is eternity, who sha'nitzchius hu loy rak mitzad ha'hamshocha milumayla. This eternity is not just because of that's from above. You make the nitzchias because there's a gilui milumayla. Eloshamatu keli lozeh, but rather that the bottom, the mokum, the zman, the below, it becomes a vehicle to it. V'nitzchi zu hirak b'bayis shlishi. That eternity is b'bayis shlishi. So, but the Rebbe says we can't say just nitzchis is the advantage, because nitzchis of the bayis shlishi, because nitzchis could have been by the bayis rishon too. The advantage of the bayis shlishi is that the nitzchis is going to be mitzad the mata. That we say that there could be a nitzchias, that is because of the gilui milmailo. It can be a nitzchias, but it didn't come from the mata. But for the mata to become a keli, that is going to be by the bayis shlishi, and that's when we say also leis de nasar hedjit. This is not the common because it's on the mokim itself. Yud. Vayidei gilui hagilui the yichud havayim velikim boifun hanal sheyiyeh bebeis hamikdash. And then through this gilui of the union of Havayim velikim in such a way that it's going to be in the beis hamikdash hashlishi, shagam hamokim shenizhabim b'shem elikim. That also this space that was created b'shem elikim, who keli lahagilui the havayah shalamayim hamokim, becomes a vessel to the revelation of havayah, which is higher than space. So from this revelation, it's going to be somewhat of it also in all of the world, from the Beis Hamikdash to the rest of the world. That revelation will be mainly in the redemption that is after the Binyan Beis Hamikdash. The Rebbe started off by talking about in the Mamer of the Torah that it has the Geula, also the eternity of the Geula, because as the Rebbe is explaining that while in the Beis Hamikdash Hashlishi we had that Nitzchi is also Mitzad Mato, but it didn't expand in the rest of the world. The rest of the world is going to reach that level through the Geula. The reason for this, that the future redemption is going to be an eternal redemption. That doesn't fit after that redemption of Golus, that is because the world is going to become a vessel for redemption. As explained in the Torah, Geula Hashlishis Hibischus Yaakov, that the third redemption is in Yaakov's marriage Shemidosim Mistas Emes, whose measure is measure of truth. She'en Shayich Boy Shinui, over there cannot be no change. The Amitis Inyan Habligvul, the true idea of Bligvul, Midas Haemes, meaning if you want to go by Midas Yaakov, Midas Haemes, what is true Bligvul? Hushahamato Keli Lozer. That means that the Mata is a Keli, not because of Amshocha Milmaila, but the low becomes a vessel for it. That makes it really, truthfully, nitzchias. Al derech zeh, hu beinyan the kibbutz golius. Similarly, it's also in the idea of the ingathering of the exile da'geula. Yihiyeh b'chol shisha haktzoves the mokim. That's going to be in all corners, all places of the world, uh, so that nitzchis is in zman, and this is also in mokim. That mokim is also going to be the gilui of Shem Havayit level of unity, because we find that all four corners coming together, the Goliaths, Mimizrach ovi zaracho, from east I will bring your children. Umemayrav, the pasuk says, Umemayrav akaptzich. This is a pasuk in Yeshaya Mem Gimel, pasuk Hey and Vov. So over there, the pasuk says that from the east I will bring your seed. Umemayrav akaptzich, from the west I will gather you. Amar litzofin tuni, I will say to the north, give uleteman, and to the south, el tikoli, don't hold them back. Haviu banai merochek u'benoisu miktzei ores, bring my sons from the distance, and miktzei ores. These are the other two extreme, the mailomatu, the yeshloim asherochek v'kotzim connected beis haktzov mailomatu. We can say that these two, Merochek u'Miktzei Oretz, are the other two corners from top and bottom. V'yesh loymar shekibbutz hagoliyis mikol hashisha ktzovis. So we can say the gathering from all these six corners, Tiyeh B'oifim, is going to be in such a way, Sha'ashisha ktzovis yisayu lozeh. The six corners will help, so it'll come from the Mokim itself, will bring about that unity of all places. So there's not going to be split places, but it's going to be a support that they all bring back the kibbutz golius. V'hinei, av she'agilu sheyimshach ba'olam yeh rak me'ein agilu shebebeis hamikdash atzmai. Even though the revelation that is going to extend into the world is only going to be somewhat of the revelation which is in the Beis HaMikdash itself, less. Yes, Yisrael b'hamshocha ba'olam, there is an advantage in the hamshocha that comes in the world. Ki hayichud da'havayeh v'elikim shebebeis hamikdash atzmai, the union of v'elikim as it's in the Beis HaMikdash itself. Kivon sheleis dein asar hedyet, since this is not the ordinary place. Ein niker bozeh kol kach, you can't tell so much that that union of Havai Elikim is also from the perspective of Shem Elikim. So what we do is when do we have that revelation that also Mitzad Shem Elikim, there is that union who be Iker al Yidei Shenimshach Mein Agilu the Beis Hamikdash Ba'olam. That's mainly through it coming in later on, somewhat of it in the world. Asar Hedyet, the world which is Asar Hedyet, and over there you can mainly see that also in the Asar Hedyet there's a Yichud Havai V'Elikim. So based on this, we can explain the advantage of the Gula relative to the Beis Hamikdash. We say that it follows. That's why it's going to come, the redemption after the building of Beis Hamikdash. As we said earlier, Hagilui, the Beis Hamikdash ba'olam tia be'ikar ba'agula kanal, because extending revelation of the Beis Hamikdash in the world is mainly going to be by the Gula said before. Yudalef. The Ikir Hagilui, the Yichud Havai Velikim. The main revelation of Yichud Velikim, Shayichud Gametzad Elikim, Yihiyeh B'tchiyas HaMeisim Shalachar Kibbutz Golius. That's mainly going to be in the Tchiyas HaMeisim after even Kibbutz Golius. Achrein Shebekulom, the last one of all the special things of the La'asud Lovay, the Beis HaMikdash, the Kibbutz Golius, and then we're going to have the Tchiyas HaMeisim, the final revelation of La'asud, final thing of La'asud Lovay. Tagilu Sheyeh Ba'olam, Geula Megolus, Kibbutz Golius, because that redemption of Golus and the ingathering of the Golus who Gilui Mugbal, that is a limited revelation, relative to the revelation that will be in the future. That's considered a Mugbaldik or canal. That's only somewhat of the revelation of the Beis HaMikdash, but it's not the full revelation. But in Tchiyas HaMeisim, when the vitality of the body will be from the Sovev, that would mean that the Guf will get from a higher place than the vitality of the Neshama. That's why we say that La'asud Lovay, actually the soul will nurture from the body. So at that point of we'll reach that level. So then will be both milas, Gilu Blikvul Soiviv. It'll be the revelation Blik Soiviv. Gilu Ze Yeh Behaguf. Shashor Shoy Hu Meshem Elikim. And that Gilu will be within the body. I mean, like the Shem Elikim, it's Mitzad the body, Shashor Shu Meshem Elikim will express the level of higher level of nitzchis. So therefore, ultimately, the ultimate expression of this level of yichud will be in Tchiyas HaMeisim. Yudbeis v'zehu Gadol Yihiyeh Kavod HaBayis HaZeh HaAcharon min HaRishon. And this is the meaning that the honor of this Third Beis HaMikdash is greater than the first Beis HaMikdash. Tagam shebegula asida yikama v'kama inyonim. Even though that in the future redemption there will be many different aspects. V'ad l'tchiyas hameisim shu acharein b'kulom till tchiyas hameisim, which is the last of all of them. The komokim iker ha'adgoshed is here b'kvod HaBayis HaZeh HaAcharon. The main emphasis we're talking about the Bayis HaZeh, even though that's not the ultimate gilu, will be later on, but we're talking about the honor of the Beis HaMikdash itself. Because the root of all these matters is Beis HaMikdash. And from it, they will extend into the world, as we said before in Sibbeis. Zehu Gam Ma'atayim. There's also the reason Sha'pa'ula HaRishon Mashiach. The first act of Mashiach, Mashiach, after he is established as Mashiach, Ubinya Beis HaMikdash. First thing he'll do is build the Beis HaMikdash. Kizehu HaShoynesh D'chol Inyonim Shel Achar Yisrael, because that's the root of all matters that follow. V'yirotzin v'yiker shekol ze yivukarav mamish. The main thing is this should be very soon. So the comes from the Beis HaMikdash. The ultimate level is in Tchiyas HaMeisim, when the Guf will be from Sovev. It will be the Yichud Havai Velikim, but it will be Mitzad the Guf itself, who comes from Elikim, and then it will be the Yichud Havai Velikim. And it extends, and there's an advantage to it, and that's why they follow more than even the Beis HaMikdash. I explained how it's in the Beis HaMikdash is Leisa Dar Den Hedger. Now, I know I'm not pretending that went through the Mamer, clearly. It's a very difficult, a very haskalah, and every point needs to be pondered and understood and learned again and again. But for a first time, I hope this will be of assistance.